starting event here.
Yeah, it says starting event here.
Ooh,
Welcome
right.
to the Society of Authors at Home Festival. Slightly false start there. Today's session is developing and pitching content for children's film and TV with Curtis Jobling. I'm Jo McCrum, Secretary of the Society's Children's Writers and Illustrators Group, and this event is part of a 12-week program which runs until July. All sessions are free, but if you can afford to donate a few pounds to the Authors Emergency Fund, you're welcome to do so. This supports authors in financial difficulty during the health crisis, and we've posted a link in the chat bar. Do have a look at that, and if you need to apply, have a look at that as well. Some housekeeping. If you click on the speech bubble at the bottom of this pop-up the chat bar, you'll seem to have found it, and that's where you ask your questions today. And if there are any connection problems, there's a red button at the top, and you can press that to reconnect. But we are recording this event, and we will circulate a link to that later. So don't worry if your connection goes. Anyway, the presentation is 40 minutes, after which we'll take your questions for 15 minutes. And don't forget, you can ask the questions all the way through the presentation. Remember to turn off your mobile phone so you can completely concentrate. So that's the housekeeping. What about our speaker? Finally getting to you, Curtis. Curtis Jobling's on the Seaward Committee and has written everything from picture books to YA novels. He's even illustrated some of those too. He's worked in the animation industry for more than 25 years and is the designer of hit children's TV show Bob the Builder, and is the author of CBeebies animated series Frankenstein's Cat and Rah Rah the Noisy Lion.
Yeah, I do have over 20 years of experience in film and television development, principally in the animation industry. So I'm going to be touching upon that today as we go through my own experiences in broadcasting development and the successes and failures I've had along the way. This is purely subjective, of course. There are other ideas and ways and means of pitching TV shows, but from my own experience, that's what we're going to go through today. There will be PowerPoints, I warn you now, and we're going to be looking at various different properties that I've developed over the years, some of which got green lights as well. We're going to start with what the property is, first of all. So there will be different sorts of properties that no doubt you as a viewer is considering to pitch and hopefully get picked up into development with a broadcaster or a producer. If it's an original property, i.e. not based upon a pre-existing work, such as a novel or a book series that you may have written, you can be very flexible. You don't need to worry so much about having to stick to the source material. You should be flexible as well. If it isn't based upon any pre-existing property and that hasn't sort of proved itself in the world of publishing already, it's a bit more of a gamble, theoretically, for the broadcaster or production company to run with. So you need to be prepared to bend and shape your project according to what they're looking for a little bit as well. So if it's an original concept, yeah, don't be set in stone about anything. If you're really set in stone, it's got to be gold dust, really, and those properties are few and far between. If it's an adaptation, and most of the things we're talking about here are going to be adaptations, there's a number of things to bear in mind. The principal sort of adaptation that you might be looking to do would be adapting your own work, be it a book or a series of books or a project that you've had in print as well. Things to bear in mind or consider: prepare yourself for change. It's not going to be the thing that appears on the screen is not going to be the book. It's going to be a thing based upon the book. And that's a thing a lot of authors seem to forget about. They get excited and giddy when somebody comes in and makes an offer to option a book from them to adapt. But you need to be careful, always check with the small print to make sure what you're going to be getting. 99.9% of the times, it's going to change from the source material. I remember once having an American production company in Hollywood. A producer got on a call with me with my agents in the States to pitch developing the Werewolf series as a movie. And the first thing they did was, it's a series where the hero is a werewolf and the bad guys are the were-lions. And the first thing the writer who was developing the idea said to me was, okay, we think that werewolves have been done to death a little bit, so we're going to make what we're proposing is that the werewolf, they're the bad guys and the were-lion is the good guy. And the rest of the pitch went okay, but in that moment, they completely underestimated what the property was and also the large audience who already loved the book. So they wanted to change it in quite dramatic fashion. I could have let them option it. It would have been a completely different beast. It would not have resembled the book. And for that reason, I said no. So yeah, if you're not prepared for it to change, have a line, have a bar that you're not prepared to pass as well. Also prepare not to work on it. I should also add that there's every chance that if a production company options your book to develop for film or TV, that they will have a screenwriter in mind or a writing team who they want to have a run at it as well. There are very few writers who get to work on their own shows and their own films as well. Well, it's time consuming for starters, but also, yeah, it is a different discipline. Screenplays compared to writing novels and picture books, it's a new world really. So one does not naturally equate into being the other as well. I'm lucky I do get to work and consult on some of my books that are developed into TV, but that's only because I come from the world of television first of all. I moved into publishing from television in the first instance. So my background in development and in production means that that's actually a string to my bow. But yeah, I'm in an unusual situation in that regard. There's every reason for you to take the money and run. This is a method for optioning. If your idea gets picked up for television, sometimes the offer can be really, really good, too good to resist, in which case, yeah, I think a lot of authors will and artists will sign over the option rights, take that money and walk away from it, and let the film, the TV show be produced in whatever iteration that it happens to be. Alan Moore is a really good example of somebody who uses this method because it saves his sanity. He takes the money and runs. So Alan Moore, the graphic novelist and comic book writer, numerous books such as From Hell, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Watchmen, all these films, huge blockbusters by Hollywood. Some of them are hits, many of them are misses. He distanced himself from the get-go. He never ever says that he has anything to do with the films. They are their own thing. He is the novelist. He is the writer. He writes his books. That, if you want to watch it, go ahead. That's a TV show. That's the book based upon the film, but film based upon the book. But the book is his baby. Okay, so he steps away, he takes the money, and he runs. It is important to be able to do this because you will save your sanity as well, because it can drive you slightly crazy if you don't do this. I've got a friend of mine who was another middle grade fantasy writer who wrote a series of books set 300 years ago in the north of England. And when Hollywood chose to adapt his books into film, it was a tough experience for him. He had to see his story set in sort of Lancashire 300 years ago transform into something that resembles something from the Lord of the Rings. I remember one of his presentations, he showed a slide from the film in development. And as I was stood at the side of the stage, he said, "Look at that, that's supposed to be Preston Docks. It looks like bloody Rivendell." He wasn't happy. So yeah, these things do happen. The thing can change, and in order to save your sanity, and also it's your baby, it's perfectly natural for you not to want to see it get torn apart, but invariably it does get torn apart. Quite often it becomes a Frankensteinian baby that slightly resembles the source material. Sometimes you get faithful adaptations, but for a lot of the time things will change along the way. That's the thing, it's adaptation. Adaptation itself, it means it's rewritten. Okay, so you just need to be prepared for that. If you can consult on it, great. What you don't want to do is be that fly in the ointment. No, if things are progressing and if you start digging your heels in, sometimes you've got to use your sense of judgment on when to quit and when to stick. If it's another property that you're looking to develop, somebody else's work, somebody else has written it, but you can see the potential for this to be a TV show or a film, the first and only place to go to is not a broadcaster or a publisher, but or a production company, but it's the owner of the source material. It's the estate, if it's somebody who's passed away. Speak to them. That's who you're going to be pitching to. Be aware of the brand value of that original material that you're looking to adapt. In the case of the Agatha Christie estates and the Ian Fleming estates, they've had some success with having new writers produce books based upon their beloved characters, but also film and TV adaptations as well. Sometimes there is a misstep. That does happen, and when they do misstep, when it's an estate, they're very cautious about dipping their toes back into the world of film and TV as well. So make sure when you do go to them that you're aware of any previous adaptations that have been based upon those characters, and make sure that if there have been previous adaptations, that your idea, your concept is different enough from them and stronger as well. This brings us on to who those production companies and broadcasters should be. Best thing to do, first thing to do is do your research. Know the shows, okay? So different broadcasters, different production company. A production company will have a portfolio of different shows that they produce. Usually they will be varied because they don't want to producing duplicate versions of the same show that are so similar that you can't tell them apart. So you're looking at whether your property will fit in that stable and stand apart from the others and add to it. Okay, so be considerate of that. The same with broadcasters. If you need to know what shows that they already broadcast, what are successful, and who their kind of sweet spot is, who their audience is that they kind of pitch to. You wouldn't pitch a preschool show to Cartoon Network directly. You'd go to Cartoonito or whoever the kind of the preschool branch of that company was. So know who what the shows are that you're competing with. Know the team. Okay, so who are the makers? The big wigs at the production company and the studio or the broadcaster as well. It's never been easier to find out who these people are, thanks to the perils and pitfalls of social media. It's quite easy to track people down. Okay, you only need to Google Netflix, Amazon Production, Hulu, whoever it might be, whichever broadcaster, and then different production companies. They're all there. They're on Twitter. They're on Instagram. You will find a presence. Okay, and a little bit of research. Google can be your friend occasionally. Find out who these people are, who the contacts are, who the people are in development, who the producers are, who are making those decisions. Don't stalk them, whatever you do, okay? There's no place for hanging around in their bins outside their houses, seeing them come and go. But you can be aware of what they're fond of when they're talking on social media, sharing stuff with the public. You can get a bit of an idea of the kind of things that interest them as well. And if you can engage with them, great. Don't be afraid of engaging with them. They might not reply, but if they're speaking on social media, that means they're speaking to an audience, the public. Okay, so they need to be prepared to answer questions when you see them. So yeah, social media is the best place to find these people, and then start making those connections as well. Connections. It's a networking. It's a cheesy American expression, but it's true, isn't it? It's common sense. That's what we're looking at. Use your common sense. If you want to meet people and get ahead in life, you've got to start talking. So you need to put yourself out there. Have your own presence online. Don't pester people, don't step over the line, but start commenting and connecting with people as well. Know what they're looking for, okay? If you know what the broadcaster is looking for, that's half the battle as well. Occasionally, broadcasters will put a shout out to different writers on the internet. And again, it's getting your foot in the door and being part of that inner circle to receive these things. But I have an example here, I think, somewhere. If I can just share my screen, hopefully, I'll be able to show you an example of a recent, it's here somewhere, we'll go with it. Excuse the strange trippy things that are happening on the screen at the minute, but if I just move that there, yeah, here we go. So hopefully you can see that, but this is a Nickelodeon call for interest, basically. Looking for the next big live action kids show, character driven, gender neutral, live action series, funny, feel good, fun, dose of drama, stakes and heart. And there we go. They're asking very clearly what they're looking for. Two different models, okay? Single cam sitcom or a serialized dramedy, okay? I think you can work out what a dramedy is. Here we are. Whilst we want something truly fresh and original, we are not looking for anything with the following themes: space, stage school, superhero or magic mermaids, or even magical mermaids. And that's what they want, okay? Logline, show premise, lead character descriptions. We'll go over this very shortly as well. It's going to be in something else I'm going to show you. So that's the kind of thing that broadcasters will be looking for. It might just give you a bit of a head start as to what to develop. Don't go pitching for something, an idea to a broadcaster they're not going to be into. You need to know what's out there. The pitch itself, your idea, and when I say the pitch, I mean it's the thing on paper, but it is also the verbal pitch when you get the moment to talk about your idea to a broadcaster or a producer. Hone it, work on it, make sure you have got it down pat, make it feel natural, make it feel conversational, know your idea inside out, have everything covered. Don't go in half-baked. When you get the chance to pitch your concept, your show, you may only have 5 minutes, you might have 20 minutes, you might be lucky, but you'll know within a few minutes whether a broadcaster or a producer is interested in your idea. So yeah, have the answers at the ready. Be prepared to be flexible. Be prepared to adapt it on the spot if you have to. If they if they say we like it, but there's a little bit of it that you might want to look at and think, okay, you know, I can do that, I can change it. So you need to be prepared to hustle a little bit as well. But the best thing you can do, as I say, is hone it, work on it, practice your pitch, know your idea inside out, have everything be a bit exhaustive with your research as well. The next thing I'm going to look at here is I've got a little show development talk. So again, excuse the very dodgy tech side of this, but I'm going to turn the share screen back on. And we're going to bring up this wee presentation here as well. From the beginning, okay, so for concept development, collaborate. Yeah, these are just a few things to bear in mind if you are developing an idea based upon a book, pre-existing, whatever it might be. Be prepared to collaborate. Okay, if you keep everything to yourself, if you have a weakness anywhere, it's going to be exposed in your development. So be prepared to collaborate. Work with people who have got a skill set which is going to complement yours. So maybe you need an artist to work with you to work up a pitch document. Get them on board. They're going to bring ideas, certainly for animation. So yeah, think about who an artist that you might be able to trust and bring on board. Failing that, you're looking to use bits of sample artwork from the internet, browse around for what you can find, but always be prepared to collaborate. Okay, if you are hoarding your idea, thinking I'm going to keep everything on this so I get 100% everything back, you're never going to see it happen. Okay, chances are it's never going to get picked up, it's never going to be developed. You need to be prepared to carve up some of that as an incentive to other people to work with you, so you can bring talent on board, and it's going to be the best for everybody then. So you can share that workload. Other people will then get invested in your concept. Format, every property, every pitch that you've got, one of the first things people are looking at is what is the format? Is this a 2D or 3D show? If it's animated, for example, how does that affect the budget? Again, as a writer, I don't work out the budgets if I pitch my shows. I tell people what it is, but the first port of call, usually for me with a show or an adaptation, is finding a producer. Okay, I don't go straight to the broadcaster, although I know them. I go to a producer first of all, and I see if they want to option the idea, somebody I can work with, who I respect, who is going to get the property. They can put the budget together later on, but one medium is usually more expensive than the other. Is the show live action? Okay, if it's a live action, if it's a comedy or a drama, know what that is as well, have that in the format. How many episodes are likely to be produced? Know what broadcasters typically commission. Episodes, usually traditionally in the UK, a season of an animated series would be 13 episodes or something, or anywhere between 12 and 24. Things have changed an awful lot in recent years thanks to media platforms such as your Netflixes, your Amazons, and what have you as well. So things are a little bit more flexible. Length of shows has changed. Everything is not 10 minutes long anymore. It could be a 20-minute episode. It could be 15. You only need to look at shows like Game of Thrones to see how their episode length on HBO, they differed wildly. And that has only continued with other platforms as well. Okay, so just be prepared of what sort of thing a broadcaster would usually commission that would entail make up a series. What duration is that single episode? Obviously, that needs to be considered there as well. And platforms, okay? Be prepared for your property to be, think about what the other platforms are that we're looking at. Is it a web-based property as well? Is there a gaming angle? Is there a publishing angle? Assuming there is, we're looking at the Society of Authors here, and whether it's TV and or film as well. Who is the audience? Okay, speaks for themselves. Preschool, tween, and teen is the usual kids audiences that we look at as well. Okay, tween would be the middle grade audience, the 9 to 12. Okay, they're not tots and they're certainly not teenagers quite yet. It's that the holy kids TV. Tween shows that we're looking at would be things like SpongeBob and Adventure Time. The teen audience and the preschool audience, obviously preschool, huge potential for merchandising. Okay, it goes without saying if you're pitching an idea to a broadcaster that you are going to have a lot. Theoretically, in the DNA of a preschool show, there is a potential there, or there should likely be a potential eventually for merchandise. You shouldn't need to spell it out. Okay, same with tween stuff to a degree as well. Teen audiences, they're not really interested in merchandise for the most part. Okay, but just be aware if you're trying to pitch your idea to somebody for interest, say it's got great potential for toys, you're repeating what everybody else is saying. We all know this. Everything in television has a potential for toys. That's why people such as distributors and toy companies get involved with production companies at the earliest stage to take a part of the back end. They'll put money into the development of the TV show in order that the game, the toys at the end, they have the rights to them. Okay, so know who your audience is. a synopsis. A synopsis is it's the single paragraph description that encapsulates what the show is. Punchy, fun, eye-catching. It's exactly what you would be doing if you were pitching a synopsis for a book property to a publishing house. Okay, it's what they'd call an elevator pitch in the world of film and TV. Okay, it's a quick description of what something is that's going to sell it over to an interested party. When Werewolf was first launched at San Diego Comic-Con in 2011, Penguin described it as Game of Thrones for teenagers featuring werewolves. Kind of a good description, although there is a little bit more to it than that. There aren't that many werewolves, just the one, and there isn't anywhere near as much incest as you might imagine. Okay, so that's it. It needs to pop. It needs to be a sweet, short overview of what your show is. Then we need a character list. Okay, lead characters, brief paragraph descriptions, 4 or 5 lines about who those characters are and what they're doing. And then we need a supporting character list. Okay, so your core characters is maybe 3 or 4 of those. Supporting characters can be a little bit a thinner description, but they need to be there as well. Artwork is really helpful. Okay, eye-popping artwork, every opportunity. If you can get that into your document, brilliant. If it's a live action show that you're adapting and developing, then that's not really going to be an issue. But if it's animation that you're pitching or something based on a picture book, get the picture book artwork in there. It's only going to help sell it as well. Sample storylines, maybe think about, I tend to go with about 6 sample storylines if I'm pitching a show as well. And again, it's just a paragraph. It's just something that gives you an idea, a flavor of the world and how it's going to open up when somebody makes the show. Okay, so paragraph or 2 for each storyline, a sample script if you feel it's worthwhile. You may not have one. Okay, be in search of a collaborator at that stage. If you need somebody who is going to help you write it, there are countless fantastic, funny children's comedy writers out there. Again, on Twitter, go looking, you will find them if you dig a little bit deeper as well. So we're going to look at some of those shortly as well. I think the first thing we're going to look at, though, is maybe the first place to start will be for my own shows. It will probably be Frankenstein's Cat. Okay, so we'll just shut that one down. And we're going to bring up, apologies, we're going off into some strange Aberesque video there at the moment. But here we go. Okay, so yeah, case studies here we're looking at. For myself, Frankenstein's Cat was a picture book that I wrote and illustrated in about 2001. It was published by Hodder Headline, published internationally with different publishing houses as well. And it was a picture book which was it was great fun to write because yeah, the idea for it was actually conceived on a train journey from Warrington, where I live, down to London, to Euston. And on this train journey, I came up with these little doodles here that you can see on the screen, okay, of who the character was. And literally when I came out of my off the train journey, I went to Hodder Headline when they used to have their offices on Euston Road. I had a meeting with my editor, the editor there, showed her the stuff I'd been working on. Nothing was quite a fit. She was showing me towards the door, about to say goodbye to me. It's been lovely to see you. And she said, is there anything else you've been working on? And I said, I've just done this on the train. And I showed her these 2 little pages there. And then she turned me around. She sat me down. She called their rights team through. And that's how it got picked up. So, yeah, there's being in the right place at the right time. But by your actions, you can certainly put yourself in the right place at the right time. And that's just some of the artwork from the picture book. And then we started to develop it as a TV show as well. We needed different characters. I produced a pitch document. I took it to a company called McKinnon and Saunders in Manchester. McKinnon and Saunders being the guys who make all the puppets for Bob the Builder. And because of my background on Bob the Builder with them being the puppet makers, there was an easy kind of connection there. I pitched it to them. They started developing it as a TV show. Okay, and there's some of the character designs that you see in this show as well. So my job on that show was designing it as well. But the actual pitch document for that, it does look a little bit different. So I'm just going to very quickly bring this up. Hopefully it will behave itself. Okay. Well, here we go. This is the pitch document. So there we go. What we're talking about formats there, we've got a 26 by 11 minute episode of anarchic cartoon comedy aimed at audiences aged 6 to 11. So that's the tween audience. It's the core audience. Production technique is 2D digital. That basically translates to flash animation at the time, although it did change along the way. And then a quick, simple introduction about what the show is. Welcome to the pocket country of Moldavia, a tiny idyll tucked away from the bustle of modern life and advancements in technology, a bit like Wales. So there you go. You've got the idea. And then we've got content, who the characters are, some storylines, and who the production team is. Principal boy and girl, Frankenstein's Cat, Lottie. Secondary characters, the Frankenpets, who we've just met, the Town Boys. Dr. Frankenstein, Lottie's mum, and some more supporting characters. And then we've got those sample storylines, okay? These are a little bit more in depth, but again, it's only a couple of paragraphs for each one, really, just giving you an idea of what the stories are going to be and how silly and funny it's going to be. The other nice thing at the end was also having a pitch document, if you can, who the production team is, what the talent is, any awards, have those listed. There's my claims to infamy there as well. So have those things in your pitch document also. And very quickly, if I just stop sharing for a moment, that little notebook as well, it is here. It can be a tiny thing, what we're looking at. But when you are developing something, I think we've probably got this one. There we go. So tiny little notebook, and that's the early Frankenstein's cat doodle on that journey, okay? It's a little notebook, but I set myself the challenge of thinking up the story. That's how it got picked up. And again, something nice when we did pitch this, and the book is here. Obviously, it's a lovely thing. This is the hardback edition of the book. But when we pitched it at Kids Screen Summit, because the animation company that I was working with were model makers, we made a maquette, okay? A model of what the character would look like in 3D, okay? And we got to let the cat out of the bag at the presentation. And it was to an audience of hundreds of broadcasters and production companies from around the world. And as you might be able to imagine, it really helped to seal the deal, and it got the thing picked up by the BBC. So having something nice, a bit of art, it can always go a long way. It can make such a difference when you're pitching something. In the case of Rah-Rah, again, slightly different, but we're going to have a little look at that as well. In the case of Rah-Rah, Rah-Rah was conceived actually on a, well, goodness, just thinking now, I was stuck in a traffic jam on the somewhere outside of Manchester on the M62 going nowhere fast. And in order to keep my daughters amused, we played I Spy, we sang nursery rhymes, all sorts of songs. One of the things we did was, it was Old MacDonald had a zoo. I very quickly ran out of zoo animals, farm animals. And I said in that farm, he had a lion. And all of a sudden, my daughter started shouting rah-rah here and a rah-rah there. And that was it. That was a light bulb moment. When we finally got home late that night, I did what any good daddy would do. I let my wife get the kids out of the car, put them to bed. I went inside and started doodling. But they were the first doodles and drawings that I did of the character, okay? There's a cast that we're looking at there. And those early drawings that I'd done over that long weekend, pretty much by the Monday, I knew what the idea was for the property, which I then ended up taking to Nickelodeon & Saunders, my longtime collaborators. And I wrote up a little document, okay, rah-rah, a noisy new preschool show from Curtis Jobling. Okay, there's the cast of characters, noisy, giddy exploits of them as well. And I had this broader cast of characters. I knew what the world was. I wanted it to be a kind of a traditional preschool, a British kind of show, in so much as, I say British, Magic Roundabout was French, but the look of crisp, clear white sets with drop-on props and stuff. And that's what I pitched to them. And literally overnight, it was picked up by Nickelodeon & Saunders, and very quickly it was hurried into development as well. But again, being in the right place at the right time. This is the rah-rah document, okay? And again, target audience preschoolers, technique, stop frame animation, TV format, 65-minute episodes, platforms, TV and an interactive website. And this was the idea, having a model character with drop-on cutout sets, which kind of slid in and out of view as well. Okay, so that was the world of rah-rah, and that was how it was pitched. And again, some sample storylines too. Okay, so you're getting a bit of a feel for some of those the different properties as we development and pitch them, and the kind of things that you want to have in there as well. The other thing we did with rah-rah to make it different as well was, and that's adapting an original property. Obviously, it's not. We've got a bit more freedom to be able to pitch that however we want to. In order to pitch it to the BBC, we made sure that we had an edge to it. And one of the things I wanted to do, having worked on preschool shows, which were very much about shifting merchandise, I didn't want to do that. I wanted something to have heart. I wanted rah-rah to have some sort of communication message to it. I wanted to help little children communicate without making the bold statement that this show will make children talk, okay? TV does not help children to talk. TV does not talk back, no matter what. Diminutive Hispanic explorers on Nickelodeon will say, okay? Dora the Explorer is a liar. It doesn't work that way. The way children learn to communicate is by speaking to their parents, their grandparents, siblings, friends of the family, uncles and aunts as well. Okay, we got speech and language therapists working with us on the show. Every episode is bootstrapped with rhythm, rhyme, repetition, and retelling, the 4 R's, which help children communicate. Okay, television is only ever going to be the dessert option in a child's development. Okay, in the case of Rara, at least we knew that we had the fruit salad. So yeah, that's where we were coming from with Rara as well. And then adapting new stuff. I know, Joe, you mentioned earlier on that this was in particular, it's not with a broadcaster yet, but Weird World is in development at the moment with a major production company. It's actually as an animated series. That's what we're looking at the moment. Now, Weird World was a series of novels initially, okay, which was published by Penguin in 2011. There's 6 books in the series, and it's epic fantasy horror. And instantly, because of my television background, I write fantasy, I write horror. They were obviously the things that, and I'm informed by my love of film and TV. So it's always had that potential to be adapted into film and television. At the point where I wanted to pitch this to a production company, I knew I needed some written material to help sell that, okay? So that's what I'm going to show you now. Some of the earliest production papers that we did for this here as well. So I'm just going to do another screen share. Apologies for the Magnifico Bohemian Rhapsody. And then we'll hopefully bring up, okay. So yeah, Weird World synopsis. So there's the American covers, what they look like. And just for my own sanity, I needed to know what the book was about, what the series is about, so that if I wrote it all up, I'd be able to pitch this to any broadcaster, any publisher, and I could give them this as a takeaway. So we've got praise for the series. So a lot of reviews have come in from major publishers or in print and journalists, and then the novel series. What does the novels consist of? When we've got a 1-page outline, pretty much, or 2 pages in some cases, of each of the novels, and there's 6 books in the series. So instantly, anybody who's interested will see the potential of what the books are for television. Okay, and then the next thing is working up an initial pitch to take to a production company, and you can see here we were looking at it in a bit more detail who the cast is, who the additional characters are, so principal, secondary, there's transformation elements, there's a format, okay, is it live action, is it animation, subsequent seasons, how will that work? And again, the last thing I'm going to show you here from the point where we were developing was a much more advanced, based upon the things that we were talking about before. So a Bible, okay, this is what the show is. The format is 10 by 24 minute computer animated show, okay? It's for 8 to 13-year-olds. So again, it's that middle grade audience, okay? Fantasy loving boys and girls as well, and adults as well if they like kind of fantasy too. And then we've got a splash of what the show is about, epic fantasy with a dash of horror based upon the show, the books, what it's about very, very quickly, and then we're into the cast. Okay, Drew, our hero, got 2 paragraphs on him. Whitley, one of our heroines, 2 paragraphs for her. Hector, 2 paragraphs. Gretchen, 2 paragraphs. Lucas, one of the bad guys. And there we go. There's some of the characters. And then we've got the series, okay? And for the purposes of this, I've worked out how the first book would break down into 10 episodes, okay? And then I break that down, okay? I expand upon it, I adapt it, okay? So I'm thinking, I know as I'm adapting it that it's going to have to change to make it work. First novel as a TV show, there needs to be more in there. So we're adding a little bit more gristle and a little bit more punch as well. That's where we're at. It's being developed at the moment. It's very exciting times. I'm obviously writing on my own scripts as well, but we don't have a broadcaster attached. But when that does get announced, I'll certainly be talking about it on social media as well. So that's the Weird World books. And then very quickly, the last one about the adaptations I was going to talk about was Haunt as well. You can possibly just about see that as well. But in the case of Haunt, again, Haunt was a series of ghost stories that I wrote for Simon & Schuster, which is now being developed as a live-action drama series. And again, it's a tween from teenage audience that I was looking at. And basically, it's the In-Betweeners meets the Frighteners, or as it says here, Randall and Hopkirk, the Grange Hill Years. About 2 best friends, one living, one a ghost. Okay, the hero dies in the opening chapter of the first book. He's killed in a hit and run. Comes back and haunts his friend. So there's not a lot out there that's like that at the moment for that tween audience, something that is genuinely scary, but also comedy. It's a black comedy. So instantly it's got a bit of an edge. It's got a potential to be something different to what else it's competing with. And again, here, you've got this section here about the book, talking about the prizes that it might have won, any competitions where it's featured. It'll get people excited by it as well. I would say if you are a published author, for whatever reason, production companies and broadcasters are instantly going to take possibly a little bit more interest in your book if it has already been a published work, certainly in the sort of traditional publishing capacity as well. If you've had some success with it already in print, it means that usually somebody else has already taken a punt on this thing, and it has had, and therefore somebody else believes in it. So if somebody else has already got behind your property, your book, your story, your concept, and brought it into being, into the world, and merchandised, instantly people get the idea that this is something. It's got a track record. We can get behind it as well. Now, if somebody else has already taken a punt on it, then it makes it a little bit more of a tasty proposition. And very, very quickly, not every project gets picked up, but very, very quickly here, for example, again, a pitch document. This is as a publishing property, an idea called Battle Quest. Ready Player One meets World of Warcraft for middle grade heroes. Okay, and again, synopsis, it's the same thing. The parallels are there with pitching a TV show, with pitching a publishing property. Okay, a bit of spot artwork pulled off the internet and used just for this purposes, but again, it captures the essence and the feel for the show. What's it like? Okay, it's Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings, and Ready Player One. It's World of Warcraft meets Skyrim, meets The Matrix and Jumanji. All these things are there as touchstones just to give people an instant flavour of what we are looking at. Okay, the audience is reluctant boy readers in this instance, the same as if it's going to be a TV show as well. But really, this is something that we're looking to make as something that crosses two different areas. But again, character descriptions, the heroes, Handsome Jack, the swashbuckler. This isn't my artwork. Much as I wish it was. It's artwork that I pulled off the internet to use to help sell the idea as well. And then book one, again, this could work for the series as well as you're pitching stories. And that's where we are. They're just samples of how to develop a property to pitch level where you can get people excited by it as well. It's the same method I would go through if I was taking this to a broadcaster as it would be for an animation company as well. Okay, where to go to with these things? Pitching a show. The first place for pitching a show usually is a trade fair, in so much as it's a good place to go to get a feel of what the market is like. Excuse me whilst I have a little sup. But trade fairs are a great place to go to get immersed within the world of television and production as well, because you'll see that everybody else is hustling. Everybody else is looking to get shows off the ground. You'll meet people who are in the same situation as you, pitching their earliest concepts. You'll meet production companies, small independent ones and mega big ones who are pitching new shows or looking for new shows. And you will also meet broadcasters at these places as well. It's a perfect place and playground to go to if you want to meet people and get your shows into development, or even get picked up as a writer. You know, you never know what's going to happen. Sat outside a cafe at a trade fair, you might get talking to somebody, before you know it, exchanging business cards, opportunities arise, you're working on development of something as well. The big ones to look for, there's one called MIPCOM and MIP Junior, MIPCOM, okay? This is, my daughter is hammering and doing a tent in the garden. Evie, could you stop that, please? Thank you. Okay, sorry, yeah, it's half term. My daughter's obviously choosing now to start hammering into the baked ground of the earth to try and put a tent up. Magic. I love her dearly. Okay, so yeah, MIPCOM is a really good one to go to. That's in Cannes, which, as you obviously will know, is Riviera, thanks to the wonderful Riviera Touch featuring Morecambe and Wise. It's a great place to go to because the world's media is there in one place for the course of a week. And the way that broadcasters and production companies arrange their appointments is, if you get in touch well in advance, they have half-hour appointments throughout the day where they will take pitches. Okay, they'll have meetings every half hour over the course of 4 or 5 days. And you need to get in there and get those slots, okay? Get your dance card full. Make those appointments, go in to see them, and then make sure that you're available to get in between from one meeting to the next one, and make the most out of your trip. Don't go over there and spend 3 days sitting in cafes, drinking rosé and not getting any work done. You need to come back with some nibbles and some bites, and hopefully some of your properties interested in development or actually getting picked up as well. So MIPCOM's a really great one to go to from my experience. Children's Media Conference is held in Sheffield in the UK. So that's our big one in the UK that you can go to. Very easy to get in touch with for that as well. The student discount version tickets you can get for it. But again, there are conferences, there are talks, there are panels where you will get to see what every broadcaster is looking to produce. You'll see new stuff that's coming through, and you'll get those opportunities to meet and pitch to people as well. Kidscreen. Kidscreen is an American conference that's held in New York, or it used to be. It's also held in Miami. They have Kidscreen Summit. Kidscreen is actually a magazine publication, which you can apply to and get registered for. Great way of knowing what's out there, because Kidscreen magazine features loads of different shows, animation and live action, children's market, tells you what's in production, who's moving, changing companies, who the movers and shakers are, who to talk to about pitching stuff. Kidscreen is the place to go to. If you get to the point of pitching at one of these things, great. You'll have to go over to America and find your money to do that though as well. And if it's animation you're particularly interested in, the best of the sort of European bunch to go to is Cartoon Forum. Cartoon Forum moves all around Europe each year to different venues. Different countries host it. It's a little bit like Eurovision, only slightly less camp. But it's a great one to go to, because you can then, more close to home, you can pitch and talk to producers and look at those different sort of overseas with French production companies, or whatever country, the Irish as well. There's lots of different co-production opportunities in Ireland, with the UK as well. So you can really start making those connections as well. And once you start going to one, you'll go to the others, and you'll see the same people at the different places, and you'll build those relationships. You'll start networking. Funding to get to these places, I hear you ask, yeah, where'd you go to for this? Because they're not cheap. From experience, I seem to remember the UKTI, the UK Trade and Industry, used to be able to give grants out to individuals or small companies to get over to places like Cannes for MIP. So you'd need to research that yourself, as is the case with all of this. I can't give you an exhaustive list of any names or contacts, I'm afraid, of people that I've worked with. All I can propose to you is that you go out there and find your own way. But yeah, look out for funding bodies. It could be the Film Council, or your regional sort of Northern Film and Media in the Northeast, or Northern Film in Manchester as well. And the Arts Council as well. There's probably grants that you can apply to there to help you get to these things. But once you start knocking and inquiring, you'll find out where the funding streams are that will help you get to these places also. Festivals, yes, festivals. Festivals are also a great place to meet producers and production companies. Biggest European animation festival I can think of would be Annecy, okay, in France. Beautiful place. Go over there. Oh, lovely views. Up Mont Blanc, okay. Wandering around the old town, but less said about that, the better. But yeah, get over there if you're pitching an animation show. See what else is being produced. Europe has some of the best animation studios and talent in the world. And over the last 12 years, it's gone from being a film festival, an animated film festival, to actually being a market. It's a trade fair. They now have, alongside the film festival, they have the sort of conference where broadcasters are taking meetings, and they're taking pictures as well. So that has changed. People are going to France to Annecy each year to pick up animated properties for television as well. Do's and don'ts. Okay, I've come up with a very quick list. Again, it's not exhaustive, but do consider these things. Do make friends. Yes, go out there, meet people, collaborate, share your idea, seek out artists, like-minded creatives. Okay, artists are so important in this this area as well. It's not all about the written word; it's about art and direction as well, and design. So yeah, if you can get some great artists on board to collaborate with you, do that as well. Carve up your idea if you have to get them on board, especially for animation. I would say that. Don't obsess and fixate on the one concept. You might have an idea that you've been kicking around for 15 years, 10 years, even 6 years, okay? Know when to move on, okay? If it's not been picked up yet, chances are you've knocked on all the doors and you've not got anywhere with it. Don't think that the one idea that you've got is a thing that's going to be your golden ticket. Chances are it might not be. So this is why you do need to create, okay? You work in a creative industry, create. Be thinking about the next project and the next one after that. Get into the habit of creating new things rather than just having the one idea that where you're going to put the house on black, okay? No, you need to be able to have other projects simmering and in development. It's a no-brainer. You should know this already if you are a writer. Keep generating the new concepts, and the good stuff will come simmer to the surface as well. Don't tell people that you're pitching to that your concept is the next Simpsons, Harry Potter, or SpongeBob SquarePants. No, there is no new SpongeBob, okay? Nobody's going to come up with a new idea like that. You just need to make sure your property is the best it can possibly be. And if it is, people will get behind it, they will believe in it, and they will back it as well. Know your competition. Do know your competition. Research the market. Know what works out there. Know who's doing really well. Don't leave anything to chance with your pitch when you go out there. Be prepared. Absolutely. I've said that before. Do have contact details, pitch document, make sure your contact details are on there. Always have some business cards ready to hand out if you need to, because you don't know where the opportunity is going to come from. You never know where you're going to meet to put somebody. But my final don't, it's a big one, do not pitch to people in public lavatories, okay? Do not do this. It happens at every publishing festival, animation festival, film festival, trade fair. You will hear about, at the end of a very stressful day, a broadcaster will have sloped off back to his or her hotel, and they're chilling out with other broadcasters at the end of a busy day of pitching. They're relaxing, having a glass of wine. They pop up to go to the loo. Before they know it, they're stood at the urinal, minding their own business, handling their business, and somebody will come up next to them and start saying, "Oh, you're blah blah, aren't you? I'm looking to make a TV show," and you're thinking, "Having a wee, clear off." So yeah, you need to know when and where is appropriate to pitch. Okay, don't do it at the end of the day. If you do meet with broadcasters at the end of the day, get to know them as human beings. Don't get to know them as the gatekeepers. Build up a relationship where you can have a laugh and have fun with people and be friendly, and then pitch in the right moment when the appropriate time comes and when that arises. Don't spend the one chance that you seem to have, that foot in the door, don't blow it by just throwing all your ideas at somebody when they don't want to hear it. Okay, so yeah, pick your moments. As I say, we're kind of at the end of my sort of talk. I've probably not breathed for the last 40 minutes. I'm not taking questions about the names and contacts. I don't have an exhaustive list, but I do say that you have to find your own way in this as well. And it's never been easy to find those contacts of people out there who are working in the industry, who are looking for new ideas and concepts and talents and properties. So go out there, find your own path. It is out there. If you go looking, if you lift up some stones, you'll find some producers and broadcasters under them as well. Okay, I'm going to come back to Joe now, I think. And
well, we had lots of questions there. So one of the first was, would you be prepared to do an in-depth pitching masterclass? Because there was a huge amount to take in. You skimmed through those slides, and I think I wanted a little bit more guidance in that area.
Are we talking about doing something like that with the society, Joe?
Yeah, maybe later in the year, but we can build something up in between times with the resource.
Sure.
The other thing is people were asking questions about agents and whether it was possible to find production companies without an agent, and then once you've got some interest to get an agent. I know it's a bit different from grown-up TV in that way that you can sort of get out there. That was my impression from you in an earlier conversation.
Yeah, with regards to needing representation, if you're pitching and meeting with producers and broadcasters, from my experience, and I know I come from it from a slightly different angle with having that background in telly, you don't actually need to have representations in order to start a conversation with somebody. If you were at a trade fair or a festival where broadcasters are, like I say, you can buy somebody a drink in a pub at the end of the evening and start having a little conversation, and before you know it, you're discussing stuff, and then you can pick up that conversation at your leisure. At the point where somebody is interested in where they'll want to actually make an option, take out an option and pay you a fee and what have you, at that point in time, you will need some kind of representation. You might need a film or TV agent representing you. And if you already have literary representation, there's a very good chance that your literary agent also has a film or TV agent that they sublet their service, or that they bring in as a sub-agent to option and develop stuff based upon their author's works. So you can either seek out your own film agent, or you can maybe go to a film lawyer. That's another avenue you can go down to as well. You just need to start digging around and find out where those places are. I've had a film and TV agent for many years, and one previously to that as well. The first one I got was through my literary agent now. So literary agents are sometimes the first place to go to find out who those contacts are. But in order to get the thing pitched in the first place, you don't need to have representation. You just need to have the guts to get out there and meet people and start talking at these trade fairs as well. The minute you've got interest, though, from somebody who wants to option it, you will find a list of film agents who will suddenly want to represent you. I can guarantee it. If you say to somebody, okay, I've got ABC production companies wanting to represent this idea, you've done the spade work, you've gone out there, you've already got the interest. You've armed yourself quite well. They will then no doubt happily step in and negotiate that deal for you as well. So yeah, you don't need to have representation. but down the line you will need some form of representation unless you are an amateur lawyer.
And we've also had, actually just a note on that, the Society of Authors will give advice on contracts, on TV and animation. We do advise you to get lawyers looking at them as well, but we will give an initial overview just to make sure that you feel you have
anything that's glaringly kind of exploitative.
Yeah. The other thing is people asking questions. We had one from Diana Kimpton and one from David Football on formats and merchandising. At what point will you be involved in decision whether it's 2D or live action? I'm presuming with David Ford's question on merchandising, that's very much in the control of the production company. And once the format question has been answered, they would then go out and find merchandisers.
I think so. I mean, the format will dictate a number of things. Obviously, certainly sort of toy lines and things like that. When I first pitched Frankenstein's Cat to McKinnon and Saunders, we all envisaged it as a stop motion animation show, but the budget, the world had changed where computer animation was suddenly the cheapest alternative. And the freaky thing was what we thought was a stop motion animated show featuring this character. Suddenly, we realized that the way to make it the cheaper way and the sensible way was to do it in flash animation, which was a great deal cheaper. So the weird thing for Puppet Making Studio was their first ever animation they made of their own as a commission for the BBC wasn't made with puppets. It was done with a drawn animation company in France. So you need to be aware that your first vision for what something might be as a show, it might change along the way. When I first started pitching Weirworld, we were talking about it as live action. Now we're looking at it as a 2D sort of drawn computer animation sort of hybrid show as well. So things will change, but change for the better invariably a lot of the time as well, in order to get that thing actually realized and onto the screen. The merchandising thing, you won't have, if you're selling on your idea to somebody, then invariably the production company who comes on board to pick it up, they're taking a big punt on it. They'll take the lion's share of everything, and you'll get a small percentage of a participation sort of fee, just as you would with a book deal as well. You get a back end percentage if the show makes its money back. All right, so you won't get an advance, you'll get an option fee and a purchase price, and then down the line that translates as once it starts making profit. And TV shows very rarely make profits, I have to say, animated shows. If it becomes a breakout hit, that's when you start to participate in the back end as well. But the more people who get involved, the more that back end gets cut away and chipped away at. It's very hard for a creative to get proper sort of realistic royalties out of a TV show, from my experience.
We also have some questions about illustration, and it was good to see that you've actually, although you're an illustrator yourself, you actually use some sample stuff off the internet. Do you ever find that illustrations could put a producer off? Is it worth getting an illustrator involved from the beginning? Do they like to have their own, like if you're just a writer, do they have their own ideas on what would be the best way of visualizing that your characters? What kind of
if you are, is this at the development stage when you are first taking it as a pitch out there to a production company or a broadcaster at the earlier stage, having a collaborator?
I think this was at the original stage for pitch.
Yeah, I would say if you are collaborating with somebody that you respect, don't just say I'm going to pay you 50 bob and I want 8 drawings, because somebody they'll phone that in. They won't put any effort into it. I'm a genuine believer that if you want somebody to put their best work in, you want to give them some of the property, make them invest in it and think, I want to be part of this. And if it takes off, I'll be involved in it for real rather than just taking a cheap check at the beginning of the day. So if you find the right person to collaborate with for development, take on board their advice. If they can advise you with, you can give them your advice as a creative on their designs. They can give you advice with their opinion as illustrators on your written work as well. It's all about sharing ideas and that workload, I think. I've always benefited from having people that I trust who I can kick ideas around with. They're usually people I've gone way back in the day to art college with, who are still friends today. So I do have people that I can get in touch with to run ideas by and kick things into shape. But yeah, I do think collaboration, welcome advice and don't be afraid to give it as well.
Okay, I think this will have to be the last question. It's from Joe Cottrell. When you pitch a property, how much involvement would you be expecting to have after someone has expressed interest? If they said, yes, we like your concept, but we want to take it on and develop ourselves, what kind of financial benefit would you get? Concept royalty, I suppose, if you're willing to give it up.
I think it's the first thing. So a typical sort of option deal for a book, you'll get a production company will take out an option fee, which can be anywhere between £1,000 and £5,000 or something on average, I think, for the most part. And they have maybe 6 months to 12 months in which to develop it to a point where they decide whether they want to actually purchase the idea. And the purchase, or they can renew the option for a further 6 months or 12 months as well for the same fee. At the point where they actually action the option, so to speak, or purchase it, you will get paid a bigger fee as well. That should be that's theoretically where it stops for many creatives when their thing gets picked up. So make sure your purchase price is decent, I think, because the chances quite often of getting the back end deal as well, that meaningful participation thing, once creative accountancy gets into play with TV companies, say goodbye to that, I think, for a lot of the time. So I do think I'm a firm believer that you need to make sure that your purchase price, whatever that might be, reflects your value and what you think it should be worth, because chances are they might pay a lip service, but they won't necessarily consult with you on the production. It's nice if they do, but they won't feel obliged to a lot of the time if you don't come from a television background. If you've written a best-selling book, then yeah, they may well be on board with bringing you on board, keeping you involved in the mix in development as well. But yeah, I think a lot of the time producers want to keep, some producers like to keep the originators of the original work out of the picture or at arm's length, so they can do what they need to make it work.
Okay, can I sneak in one more extra question? Would you change your pitch at all if it's a US producer as opposed to a UK producer? Are there different countries where you might alter your pitch, or do you always pitch to UK producers and then they go and find the co-production?
No, I've pitched to Canadian and US before now as well. No, not especially. That's the same pitch. Just being aware of what certain social, if you're pitching, I had an idea for something called the Galaxy Taxi Company, and it was a preschool show about space cabs, basically. And but I based it on New York checker cabs, the kind of the design approach for it, because I pitched it to New York publishers and animation companies. So I think you need to be aware, but it doesn't. It should translate to international markets, really. If you're keeping things that are very British, then kind of I'm not sure whether Balamory got showed over in South America or something, but I'm trying to imagine how that translated to a Latin American audience, and I'm struggling, I have to say. Yeah, I think the best thing you can do if you come up with ideas for shows, you want to sell it all over the world. Make sure that it is adaptable, that it can fit to it can be shown and translated into every single continent as well, in every country.
Brilliant. Well, I think we haven't covered everybody's questions, but I know that you have to get off meeting now. But what I would do, I will go through the chat bar on the side and I'll collate everyone's questions, and we'll build this resource and we'll talk about a kind of part 2 or a sort of more in-depth event for later on in the year. That would be fantastic.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I can say a massive thank you today. That was so much. I feel my mind is blown. But and good luck to everybody watching. And do remember that we're going to put this video out to you. So don't worry about any poor connection qualities. And we have the results as well. And later on an event as well. So we have how to work well at home tomorrow. With I think it's Matthew Knight. Thursday we have afternoon tea crime writer Vanessa Foss O'Loughlin, and again, if you want to donate to the emergency fund, then the link is in the chat bar there. And if you want to continue this conversation, I'm going to go off now to Twitter, and the festival hashtag is #SoA at home, and then I'll post that, and we'll talk a bit more, and Curtis will go after his meeting. I'm now going to Curtis. I have to work out how to do this. I'm minimizing you, and now I'm red buttoning you. Are you ready?
I'm gone. Thank you, my dears.
Bye.
Cheerio.
Right, so you're with me alone, but follow me over to Twitter, and I'm going to say goodbye, and I hope you've enjoyed everything, and I will get on with those masterclasses and resources, and have a really good week. And thank you so much for being such a great audience. I'm so sorry we couldn't get to all your questions, but I really hope you're enjoying the festival, and hope to see you at another event. We've got a few Seawiggy themed ones coming up on the 9th of June. We have Chitra Sundar and Candy Gourlay doing a social media 101. So I think I should probably learn a few tips on video linking. Anyway, hope to see you soon, and goodbye from me.